Okay, today is day 47 of videos to describe a day in the life of schizophrenic Dominic, me, and to explain that I am somewhat sane. Uh, I have sane thoughts amidst the world turning it around on me and telling everybody that I am insane. I do an intro here, right in the comment section when I post this video, where to skip to find where to go for the intro. I came to the realization while writing a book, and it's a book written on medium.com. Uh, I posted on my Facebook page on a pinned post on the comment section, and I post the medium.com site on the Threads account. And I came to the realization that if I was writing that book, that if I was describing myself to others, I describe myself as an itty bitty writer who experiences schizophrenia. It is reality to be experienced. Much of the reality can be chalked up to coming into contact with systems and operations that use highly advanced or modern technologies or systems. I am just a semi activist, brain damage activist now, and author of this book on technology and society, psychological operations, and political surveillance. And much of the book also describes thought processes I have which could have gotten me targeted. This targeting is referred to as the targeted individual program in other sectors of society. And I don't use targeted individual myself. I use it on occasion, but typically I'll use schizophrenic because I feel like schizophrenia should be examined now that these behaviors are known. And uh, it has resulted in my brain functioning in a schizophrenic manner. And in day 17, I describe why I choose schizophrenia over a targeted individual. One of the reasons is I think the targeted individual program is an entire cognitive war operation. I am actually the recipient of political warfare, what NATO terms cognitive war, and what the chief intelligence officer of the Indian intelligence describes as neurostrike weaponry, and that's what the Chinese describe it as, is neurostrike weaponry. Uh, all of this has given me a condition similar to the characteristic of that of schizophrenia, and it is actually me coming into contact with under an underworld section of democracy or global fascist classified section of reality, and so it could be right wing tied into communism. All right, so 310 here is where I'm going to stop, and I'm going to go into my talking points for today. Uh, I was reading in my book called Never Enough, and in that book, it discusses, kids because of high achievement culture are getting driven to the point of suicidal thoughts and drug usage and all these ways to alter themselves, and they're stressed out and they're acting out in all these ways, and it's leading to depression and suicidal thoughts and drug usage, and it's because they're so stressed out about having to achieve in our highly competitive, highly toxic achievement culture. And it described in this book that there was a mothers group that got together and decided to come together and create a culture where people were able to talk about it and people were able to get talked down off the cliff of suicide or drug usage. And so that was all good and well, but the lady was saying, she's like, it's fine to have groups that respond to these stressors on people in society, but we need to create a way to stop herding the kids to these cliffs. And, our achievement culture herds people towards a cliff. It pushes and pushes and pushes and pushes, and then they get to the cliff, and now you're talking them down off the cliff, but like we should stop herding people towards these cliffs, and it's like it's really damaging some of these old ideations that people have about nationhood and what the population should be engaged in, and like this, like the fact that we have to compete against China all the time. We have to be competitive on the world stage. We must have the highest test scores and blah 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 and all this. It just drives people totally insane. And be productive, be Mr. Productive, and you know, stop driving people insane. Stop being dorks. That's what I could say to people in our society is like, just relax, take a chill pill. And, uh, you know, all right, speaking of chill pill, I actually hurt myself doing push ups. I did 200 push ups yesterday, and I do 200 to 300 a day or every other day or so, and I actually hurt myself. So maybe I'm not having the proper diet. Maybe I'm just about to hit 40, and I gotta relax a little on the push-ups, or maybe just strained myself somehow. Maybe did them too fast, too soon. But we also yesterday though, what we did do as a Camino training, we did 3.5 miles of training up and over the hill to Ralph's and back. So that went really well. It's the most we've done so far. I think it was about 8,000 steps, and it was about 3.5 miles. So that was good. My mom did good. My dad did good. My dad's hip is working out pretty well. So it was a big hill, a big climb, but it worked out pretty well. I don't think we're gonna get a bigger climb than that on the Camino. So that was a good training hill. And I guess the next thing we want to hit is 4 miles, and maybe we'll do that in a couple weeks or something like that. I don't know when we'll hit 4 miles, but right now our high is 3.5, and the goal is to get to 8.8. So we got a long way to go, but we're making good progress. We started off at 2, and so that's good. Uh, in my UFO book, I don't have it on me here. I was going to show it, but it discusses James Hynek and an incident in Michigan where there was a bunch of UFO sightings, and thousands of people in Michigan saw the UFOs. And one of the guys that was part of, I think, Project Blue Book, or one of the Air Force's examinations of UFOs, I think it was Air Force. His name was Hynek, and he was a government, I guess, he was an astrologist or uh, astronomist. Sorry, not astrologist, astronomist. And he was tasked one time with figuring out what was going on with these UFOs in Michigan as part of his series of examinations. And he was peppered with a huge audience one time asking him like what was going on, and he came up with this idea that something was going on with swamp gas in Michigan, and this took on a whole life of its own. And in the book they're trying to poo-poo it, like, oh, he just mentioned it, and he didn't think it would be that big a deal. But he got called before Congress, and they asked him about the swamp gas and everything, and he was saying, like, he actually examined events around the world or around America in a more thorough manner than that particular case. And he was sad that that became kind of the calling card for the work that he was doing before Congress. In any event, this was describing that Gerald Ford was growing an interest in the UFO case back in the day. So I'm just reading about that in my UFO book. So I'm just at that point. So I was just big share that out. All right. So in my case, in my abnormal paranormal reality of the schizophrenia program that I'm subject to, uh, the original purpose was potentially to get me to become a politician or something, like through the targeted individual program or something like that. And I didn't follow the script with that. I felt like there was something really duplicitous going on with that whole thing. And uh, in any event, I think it was all a bogus BS thing, anyways, because they were turning me into a schizophrenic, unemployed schizophrenic who couldn't function, could barely think to himself without the voices going off in his head. And like, what kind of person is going to become a politician with that scenario? I mean, doesn't really make sense. So like the original purpose, like it was sold to people, or it was like they were selling. I never really wanted to become a politician. I'm interested in politics, and I was writing my blog post about politics, and I was an activist. But I'm not a politician. I don't think in politician-like manner. I don't. I don't want to devote myself to the craft of politics. I I find a lot of things interesting in life, and being a politician is not something that I find interesting. And now it's kind of a joke. It's a total joke that they would be still people run around me like run for office and stuff. Like unemployed schizophrenics don't run for office, and I don't want to run for office or something. I'm not a politician. I'm never gonna be a politician. I'm never gonna stick to talking points or anything like that. Like what some guy says in a back room, like get out there and say this or say that, and I'm never gonna do that. So I am interested in like journalism, but I don't have the training for journalism, as you can tell. I'm not really like following journalist protocols and stuff like that. So all right. So anyways, the original purpose was some sort of weird thing like that, and now it's just like one despicable person in all of this has been Donald Trump because he's used me. He is a despicable guy. And he used me to gain popularity for himself through this covert paranormal reality that he's part of, and with probably association with Nikola Tesla or whatever that technology and all that stuff is. And he's his weird Miss America pageant and all his weird stuff. And he's kind of just this despicable figure, and he used me to get popular, and he's actually not anywhere. He We are not in agreement on basically anything, and so yeah. Okay, so I was reading in my other book. I just got this book called COVID-19 Psychological Operations and the War for Technocracy, and it's written by a guy named David A. Hughes, who's kind of coming up in the targeted individual realm, I guess you could say. I don't know. He's a PhD author and professor from, I think he studied at Oxford, and he studied in, I think, Duke University, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. In any event, I'm reading this book. It's very interesting. He's talking about an idea, Omniwar, which is basically his notion that Omniwar is a war on all domains, and it's basically World War III. And I'm just starting. I'm only going to read, like I read, when I read really slow, and I read a little bit at the time out of books. So bear with me on that. I don't get extensive into books very fast. But yeah, so I could say a little bit more about the David A. Hughes name and how it relates to my schizophrenia program, but I'm running out of time. But just reading that now, so I'll keep you posted. All right, goodbye.